You know that feeling you get in a business meeting? Someone's up there presenting a revolutionary new idea, but you get this little nagging feeling that you've heard this all before, right? A new buzzword, maybe some slick new graphics, but the core of it feels familiar. Well, you're not going crazy, and today we're going to dig into exactly why that keeps happening. Okay, let's just ask the question straight up. Why does it feel like we're stuck in a loop? Is it all just one big coincidence, or is there something else going on? We're going to investigate this feeling of business déjà vu, and believe it or not, the answer is hiding in the history of one of the most important and apparently most forgetful fields in business. Just look at this. I mean, really look at the dates here. On the left, you've got a core principle from lean production, a massive management trend from the 1990s. On the right, the exact same idea, but it was written down by Charles Babbage way back in 1832. That's not just a coincidence, that's a clue. It's a symptom of a much, much bigger problem. Yeah, this isn't about just one forgotten idea. We're talking about a systemic problem, a kind of collective amnesia inside a discipline that literally shapes every single product and service you use. We're talking about operations management. This quote from L. Sprigg really just hits the nail on the head. The entire field of operations management, or OM, is constantly reinventing the wheel. Great ideas are found, they work, and then they just get lost to time, only to be rediscovered decades or even centuries later and get treated like they're brand new. So, you might be asking, where's the proof? Well, the smoking gun is hiding right there on the shelf, in the very textbooks we use to teach the next generation of managers. When researchers actually analyzed these books, they found a really troubling pattern. They're full of the latest, greatest techniques, for sure, but they've systematically erased their own history. And that history holds the keys to solving today's problems. Get this, just 3%. That's it. Only 3% of the major operations management textbooks even bother to cover the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. I mean, that's the origin story. That's the big bang for the modern factory, the very foundation of the entire field. And it's almost completely ignored. It's like a biology book that forgets to mention evolution. And this chart just drives the point home perfectly. Even the absolute rock stars of operations history are fading away. Frederick Taylor, the father of scientific management, only shows up in less than half the books. Eli Whitney, the guy who gave us interchangeable parts, his coverage drops to about 1 in 4. And James Watt, whose steam engine literally powered the whole revolution, he's in less than 20%. You can see it right there. The further back you go, the fuzzier the picture gets. So who are these pioneers we've forgotten? Let's just do a quick whirlwind tour through this incredible lost history of innovation and see what kinds of brilliant ideas we've left on the cutting room floor. Okay, this quick timeline will get us oriented. It all starts with the Industrial Revolution, moves into the era of scientific management, and then mass production. Then things get totally shaken up by the quality revolution that started in Japan, which eventually led to the lean systems that are so common today. And the secret is, every step was built on the one before it, even if the builders didn't always realize it. It really kicks off here with James Watt. He didn't just invent an engine, he fundamentally changed geography. Before Watt, you had to build your factory next to a river for power. His steam engine meant you could build a factory, well, anywhere. This is what allowed the industrial age to truly explode. This is ground zero. Next up, Eli Whitney. It's hard to overstate how big this was. Before him, every single product was a one-of-a-kind piece. If a part on your rifle broke, a master craftsman had to hand-make a new one just for you. Whitney introduced the radical idea of standardized parts that could be easily swapped. That one concept is the bedrock of all modern manufacturing. Then we get to Frederick Taylor, probably the most famous name on the list. This guy was obsessed with efficiency. He'd get out a stopwatch and break down every job into its tiniest little movements to find the one best way to do it. His scientific management basically became the default operating system for business for nearly 100 years. But as we're seeing, even his story is often told without the context of who came before him. And of course, you can't talk about this without mentioning Henry Ford. But the key thing that gets forgotten is that Ford was less of an inventor and more of a master synthesizer. He took Whitney's interchangeable parts, combined them with Adam Smith's ideas on the division of labor, and then added his own touch, the moving assembly line. He was a genius at connecting the dots that were already there. And this last one, it's one of the great ironies of business history. W. Edwards Deming was an American statistician with game-changing ideas about quality. But American companies, fat and happy with their post-war dominance, basically told him to get lost. So where did he go? To a devastated post-war Japan, where companies like Toyota hung on his every word. His ideas laid the groundwork for their rise and eventually forced the entire Western world to relearn everything it thought it knew. Look, this isn't just about fun historical trivia. This collective amnesia has a real, tangible cost. Forgetting where we came from actively hurts businesses today. It makes them slower, less innovative, and frankly, more fragile. So that brings us right to the big "so what" question. Why should a busy manager in today's world care about what some inventor did in 1790? Well, because the fundamental problems they were trying to solve are in many ways the exact same problems we're still wrestling with. So here's the price we pay for being so forgetful. First, we waste incredible amounts of time and money discovering solutions that were already figured out. Second, we basically lock the door on a giant database of what's worked and what's failed in the past. Third, if you don't know the history, you can't really understand why our current systems are the way they are. And finally, you become blind to the big recurring patterns that could help predict what's coming next. Let me give you a perfect concrete example. Back in the 1870s, a restaurant chain called the Fred Harvey Company figured out how to serve high-quality, customized meals to thousands of railway passengers with incredible speed and consistency. How? Standardized operations, employee empowerment, and a slick supply chain. Sound familiar? It's the exact blueprint for modern giants like McDonald's, perfected a century before the Big Mac was even invented. Here's another jaw-dropper. Back in the 1800s, there was something called the American System of Manufacture. It was all about quality parts, multi-skilled workers, and integrating processes. But it was mostly abandoned and forgotten in the age of Henry Ford's mass production. And then, in the 1970s, the world was taken by storm by the Japanese just-in-time system, which became the new gold standard by, you guessed it, reviving those exact same forgotten principles. So the point of all this isn't to get stuck in the past. It's actually the opposite. It's about using the past as a strategic tool. Understanding this stuff isn't about acing a history test. It's about gaining a real competitive advantage by looking backward to see the path forward more clearly. This quote just nails it. The fundamental questions in business: how do we make things better? How do we make them cheaper? How do we get people to do their best work? Those questions never, ever change. The technology we use to answer them changes, sure, but the core challenges are timeless. And this is really the bottom line. We need to stop thinking about business history as a bunch of dusty old stories and start seeing it for what it truly is: a massive, incredibly valuable data set. It lets us see how big ideas played out in the real world, helps us understand the messy process of change, and ultimately lets us make much smarter, more informed bets on what's coming around the corner. So I'll leave you with this to think about. If so many of our newest ideas are just old ideas in new clothes, what brilliant concept is just sitting there right now in some forgotten book or article, just waiting for the right person to find it and kick off the next big revolution? The answer, most likely, is already out there, hidden in the history we've worked so hard to forget.